Walker's Legacy website at www.walkerslegacy.com. Again, this is part of the Walker's Legacy Learning Series where we hear from inspiring women and learn about what it takes to be successful in business. And part of being successful in business is getting your finances in order. And it's just around the new year, and many of us are starting off with new footing for our professional goals. And part of that also has to do with starting off on the right foot as far as financials and savings is concerned. So we're really excited to have Dominique speak to us about that. From this particular learning session today, you will hear from her and get 5 tips to take control of your finances. You will learn how to set realistic, measurable financial goals. You will also learn how to conduct a financial check-in with yourself and understand why they're important. And then lastly, you will obtain tools to manage your money and keep you on track financially. Now, before we get started and have Dominique speak, I'm just going to read her biography really quickly. Dominique Broadway is a personal finance coach, speaker, finance expert, entrepreneur, and the founder of Finances Demystified, the Social Money Tour. She has a strong passion for working with young professionals, entrepreneurs, and people of all ages to bring their dreams to reality. Dominique has worked at major brokerage firms such as UBS Financial Services and Edelman Financial Services when she first began her career. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Dominique. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This is such an exciting time of year since, everyone's like ready to jumpstart their finances and kind of reattack all those goals that they maybe didn't reach last year but are kind of ready to reach this year. On our topic today of, setting financial goals for a prosperous 2014 is what we're going to be talking about. So I guess we can just go ahead and delve right in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. All right. Okay, so let's start from the top here. So like I said, we're going to be talking about setting financial goals for a prosperous 2014. And let's just start off with telling you what you're going to learn today. So basically, we're going to talk about 5 tips to take control of your finances, how to set realistic, measurable financial goals, how to conduct a financial check-in with yourself, and why they are important. And then we're going to learn about a couple of free tools to manage your money and keep you on track financially. All right, so the first step in taking control of your finances is creating a budget. And it's one thing that everyone hates. People hate budgets because they feel like budgets tell them what they can do, what they cannot do. And I always tell people that, having a budget tells you what you actually can do. It tells you what you can spend and the things that you can do, and if it's okay to do certain things, and making sure that those numbers are in line to reach some of your financial goals. So it's really important to have that budget in place. And when you're creating your budget, the first 2 things you want to think about are your 2 magic numbers. Okay, and so your 2 magic numbers are your total expected income and your total expenses. And I say expected income because I'm sure we have a lot of entrepreneurs on here. And as you know, being an entrepreneur, your income can vary month to month. So sometimes it's important to know what that expected income is in addition to what your income actually will be. And then your total expenses, how much does it cost to, run yourself each month, or how much does it cost to run me, Dominique Broadway, each month to keep a shelter over my head and food in my mouth and shoes on my feet and gas in my car. How much does it cost each month? You should always know, if it costs $2,000 a month to keep you up and running, then you need to know those numbers. And those are the 2 biggest numbers that you want to make sure you know when you're creating your budget. So, take some time, sit down, and like I said, figure out your total expected income, how much money you have coming in from, any sources of income, be it your regular job, any consulting jobs, child support, alimony, whatever it could be, all the expected income you have coming in, and list out all of your expenses, every single thing that every single price or item that you need to pay each month to keep you up and running and alive. Okay, so the next tip, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, automate your savings. Automate, automate, automate. And it's one of those things that I feel like as financial experts we say all the time, but people don't do. So make sure you start saving. A lot of times people tell me I'm not making enough to save, or I just don't have enough to save. But think about it. You maybe spend $5 a day at Starbucks or $10 a day eating out. That's easy $50 a week just that you spend on eating out for lunch, when you could possibly take your lunch or do other alternatives. And you can start small. So instead of setting large goals, a lot of times people say, hey, I want to save $200 a month or $500 a month or $1,000 a month. Those are large numbers, and trying to set aside larger numbers like that a month is harder to do. So break it up. Break it up weekly or bi-weekly and start small. You can start with $25 a week or $25 every 2 weeks or $50 or $100 every 2 weeks or whatever it may be, but breaking it up into those smaller increments makes it much easier to save. And when you're starting to save, I'll jump down here, but put it in an account that's not too easily accessible. If the account's too easily accessible, then you're going to be constantly transferring the money back and forth. And I meet clients all the time who say, I've been saving $400 a month since January. And I meet with them in November, and all they have is $400 saved. And I'm like, well, I thought you've been saving $400 a month. They're like, yeah, well, I need the money, so I pulled it out. So essentially, if you're putting too much money aside, or as they say, saving too much, which actually is a such thing, you're saving so much money that you're basically pulling it right back. You're not saving anything at all. So make sure you're finding a number that you actually can save each month, and break it up into smaller amounts that won't, hinder you from putting the money to the side. And also make sure you set a goal. Set a goal if you want to buy a new house, or saving for that emergency fund, which should be 3 to 6 months of your expenses, which we just talked about. And once you have that goal set, a lot of times it's easier to, once you can see the bigger picture, a lot of times it's easier to make those small changes so that you can reach that bigger picture, that end goal. And it's really interesting too how I'll see people all the time who say, I saved all this money to buy a house, and now that I'm in my house, I don't save anymore. Set a new goal. If you're a goal-oriented person like I am, I need to have some larger goal that I'm saving the money for, because sometimes it's like, what am I putting all this money aside for? It's fun things to do now. So make sure you're setting those goals. And if you've already reached that 3 to 6 months of emergency funds, maybe you're ready to invest. And if so, people always ask me, what should I invest in? What's the best thing for me to invest in? What's the next big hottest thing? And I always tell people, invest in what you own. Invest in the items that you own, the stores or the places or the products that you frequent the most. If all you wear is Adidas, invest in Adidas. If all you wear is Under Armour, invest in Under Armour. If you're constantly eating at Chipotle, that's probably where you should be investing your money in. So those are just some the second tip as far as taking control of your finances. So let's go to number 3. Creating a debt pay it down plan. Okay, so this is always a big one. Everyone has debt, and they're trying to figure out the best way to tackle it, being it student loan debt, or if it is credit card debt or medical bills or any types of debt. You need a plan to pay it down, just like anything else. So most people I see, they have credit card debt and they're paying the minimum each month. For every now and then, they may throw in a couple extra bucks. But essentially, if you don't have a real strategy to pay down these debts, as you can see and as you probably have witnessed, it's going to take years for these debts to get paid down. So what can you do? So what I tell people all the time is to sit down and make a list of all of your debts. Okay? List them all out. List the interest rates. And then begin tackling them one by one. So, depending on how you operate, like I said, I know I'm a goal-oriented person, and I also need to see progress. And if I don't see progress, it's very easy to give up. So, a lot of times people say tackle the highest interest rate first, which is best. But if you have smaller balances, and if you know that seeing these smaller balances going first will help keep you motivated to pay down your debt, then tackle those first. So just depending on, if you have a large balance and a high interest rate, it may be a little bit difficult for you to kind of start tackling that. But if you can feel better about yourself by knocking out some of those small debts first and feeling that sense of accomplishment, then do that. And essentially just start knocking them out one by one. Start paying, cash. So once you not paying cash, but once you list those debts out, if we say, okay, we're going to start paying $200 a month to this one debt, and then everything else we're going to pay the minimum until this one debt's gone, and then we'll take that $200 and start sending it to the second debt. Knock them out one by one, but this is a way that you can kind of create a realistic strategy to start paying down your debt. Number 4, contribute to a retirement plan. This is something that's very, very, very important. And a lot of times, especially young professionals don't always see the value in it. Or one thing that I hear very often is that they're not contributing to their retirement plan because they don't intend on staying at this company long. And that's silly. That's very, very silly, because essentially, if you're contributing to the retirement plan of this company, when you leave, you can take the money with you. It does not stay there. It's not their money. And one of the two biggest benefits of contributing to the retirement plan is, one, free money. Who does not like free money? Free money is very important, and I like free money, so why not take advantage of it? So basically, the free money that they're giving you is from the employee match. So if you're contributing, $5,000, maybe they'll match 5% of that. If you're contributing a certain amount, maybe they'll match you 100%. There's some employers, if you put in $100 a month, they'll put in $100 a month. So it's free money. You don't want to leave that on the table. The other thing here is reducing your taxable income. And basically what that means is you pay less taxes every year, and who doesn't want more money in their pocket at the end of the year? So those are the main reasons that you need to make sure you're contributing to that retirement plan. Like I said, once you are contributing, you can take that money with you. So at least while you're there, take advantage of any retirement plans that your employer has to offer. And if you're not employed or your employer doesn't offer a retirement plan, look into Roth IRAs, look into IRAs. And if you have more questions about those things, please reach out to me, because we can get really in depth as far as which one is best for you. Okay, number 5, protecting your loved ones. And this is very, very important, and very important also to start doing at a young age. Getting life insurance is critical, and it's one of the easiest ways to pass wealth from generation to generation. Even if you have kids or you don't have kids, as long as you want to leave somebody something behind, it's really important to make sure that you have 9 to 10 times your salary in life insurance. And your employer will usually give you maybe 1 or 2 times your salary, but think about it. If you have children or you have someone that's depending on your salary, you want to make sure that you can, essentially if you pass away, they're losing your income. So you want to make sure that, you're leaving behind enough money for them, not just to bury you, but also to, replace your income for at least 10 or 15 years. So that's where the 9 to 10 times your salary comes in. So you typically will need a private life insurance policy in addition to the life insurance policy that's provided by your employer. Because another reason, essentially, if you get laid off or if you leave your employer, that life insurance policy 9 times out of 10 is going to stay where it is. Okay, and then the other thing here is protecting your most valuable asset. And what most people don't realize is your most valuable asset is actually your ability to earn income. If you cannot wake up every morning and go earn your money, especially as an entrepreneur, then how are you gonna make your money? How are you gonna earn money? So if you, for something, you get in a car accident or something happens, you get sick, and you can't get up and work, how are you gonna protect yourself? So you need to protect your most valuable asset, which is your ability to earn income, and you can do that by disability insurance. And most people, employers will offer you disability insurance, but you should have private policy as well to make sure you can cover that gap. And that usually can only run, maybe $10, $20 a month, but it can make a huge difference on a month-to-month basis. Okay, so those are our top 5 tips of just basic things that we need to know as far as every aspect of our finances and what we need to do. All right, so now we're going to talk about tools and technology. So these are some of my favorite tools that I feel like everyone needs to use when they are taking control of their finances. These are all free tools. They can really, really help you keep your financial goals on track. So everyone's heard of Mint, one of my favorite ones. There's also some other really cool apps like Page Once. Well, they just changed their name to Check. LearnVest is great. They're all free apps. And basically what they allow you to do is set up your budget within the system, but also gives you the ability to track your spending, which is very, very important. Another free tool is Ready for Zero. This is an awesome app because how we were talking about creating your debt pay it down plan, this app actually does it for you for free. And another cool thing about it is it creates a plan and a strategy to pay down your debt, but in addition to that, it also allows you, shows you how much you're saving by putting extra money on one debt versus another debt. But now they've also introduced a new feature where you can actually pay your bills through their system, so you're tracking the payments that are being made, which is great. And like I said, these are all free apps. And the last two right here are based on for your credit. You know, monitoring your credit is very important. You should always know your credit score. Just like someone says, hey, Dominique, how are you? And I spit out my age. Someone says, hey, Dominique, what's your credit score? Not that they need to know. I should be able to spit that out as well. So down here are two of my favorite ones, Credit Sesame and Credit Karma. They're both free. If you're paying for credit monitoring, cancel it. It's a waste of money. These apps do the same exact thing, and they're actually hosted by two of the major credit bureaus, and I can never remember which one is which, but they're actually products of Experian and TransUnion. Can't remember which one is which. So it's giving you the same thing, but it's for free, and you have your credit score in the palm of your hands at all times, and you always know, and you can get alerts if anything changes, if anyone looks at your credit, you're always in the know. Okay, so those are just some of the tools that I like. Now let's talk about setting financial goals. And you know, setting financial goals is something that we all want to do, and not all the time, but rather frequently we set the goals and we do not accomplish them. So what can we do to make sure we get these goals accomplished this year? So one of the things I like to tell people to do is to do a brain dump. Take 10, 15 minutes, take a blank piece of paper and write out all the goals you want to accomplish this year, or these months, or by the year end or the next couple years or whatever it may be. And when you write these goals down, don't just write financial goals. Write down your life goals. Do you want to travel abroad? Do you want to volunteer abroad? Do you want to start a business? Whatever your goals are, write them down. Because no matter whatever your goals are, whatever you want to accomplish, they all have a price, a financial price that goes with it. It could be an opportunity cost, or if you're going to take time off from work to travel abroad, you're going to lose income for those months. So you want to see what the price is, or the financial price that goes with each of your goals. And think about, what do you want to accomplish, not just this year, but think about some of the things you want to accomplish in this lifetime. What is it that you want to do, that you want to accomplish before you leave this earth? I think that's something that's very important. I have a lot of goals I want to accomplish before I leave this earth, which, can range from traveling to, having certain accomplishments within my career. And it's really important to make sure you're leaving that mark before you go, and that you're putting putting things in line now to reach your financial and your life goals as they go together. And after you've written out each goal, the next thing you want to do is actually make a list of action items with dates that match each goal. Dates are key. If I don't have dates, I don't get anything done. I know how I operate. If there's not a date attached to an action item, it's just not going to get done, because I'm a huge procrastinator, and I will keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off. So now that you've dumped everything out of your brain into this piece of paper, take each item that you dumped, write it down, and then start making action items. Okay, if I want to, start my company in, selling cupcakes, then maybe I need to, start researching other major cupcake companies by January 15th, and maybe I need to get an LLC by January 20th, and make sure you set those dates. And last but not least, accountability. Accountability is very, very important, and honestly, the key to really, reaching most of your financial goals and life goals and anything that you really want to accomplish in life, you have to have that accountability. And right now we're talking about accountability partners. Having friends or family that can hold you accountable to make sure that you're reaching those goals. Share your goals. Share the initiatives and actions that you want to take and that you want to accomplish this year with other people. Because when other people know, they'll call you and say, hey, Dominique, did you do that thing you said you were going to do? Have you been sticking to that budget? Have you been eating out less? Have you, been tackling that debt? And when you know that someone else is going to hold you accountable, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get it done. So, you can have a friend, a family, a personal finance coach, a life coach, someone that can make sure that you can keep your goals and stay on top of all the goals that you're setting for the year. And financial check-ins and money dates. These are some of my favorite things to do. Now, these are specifically for your financial goals, but these can obviously also work for your life goals. So you should be setting financial check-ins or money dates every single month. I'd say set at least 1 or 2 a month. And basically, in this financial check-in or money date, I tell people, make it fun. Have a glass of wine. If you want to invite people over to hold you accountable, be it, your husband, your wife, or whoever it may be, have them sit in with your financial check-in with you, and set these financial check-ins or money dates, and you can set them, every 2 weeks or on each payday, and sit down and review all of your documents. So anything with your name and a money sign on it, these are what you should be reviewing. Review your Mint.com, review your Credit Karma or your Ready for Zero app, and make sure that you're making progress. And if you're checking in and having these money dates on a monthly basis, you'll be much more successful and be much more cognitive of where you are financially, and just making sure that you're reaching the goals. Because a lot of times people set these goals January 1st, and they don't look at them again until December 31st, and then they wonder why they didn't reach anything. Because usually by the middle of the year, you've honestly probably forgotten the goals that you wanted to accomplish, and you're not tracking them. So make sure you're setting these financial check-ins and having these dates with your money at least once or twice a month. So those are, just some of the major tips I wanted to talk about today. And I guess we can, get back to the screen, I guess we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, Dominique, that was awesome. Great job with that. That was very, very detailed and definitely very involved. And we were certainly live tweeting as you were talking, so thank you again so much for giving us that. I did have a question for you, and I wanted to see if you could talk to us a little bit about what women who are thinking of starting their own business within the next year or the next couple of months, what should they be thinking about in terms of savings and financial planning for starting a company?
Yeah, I think it's really important. That's a question I get all the time. So when you're thinking about starting a company, I always say start now, and start doing your company now. Because a lot of times what people do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to maybe save 6 months or a year worth of my expenses, and then I'm going to start my company. So I think from a financial planning perspective, you should start your company now. And if you can set a goal date and set a financial date and say, okay, if I can get my company to making, let's say, $4,000 a month each month consistently for 2 months, and then maybe I'll quit my job and go, full into this business. But I think it's really important that if you're starting a business, even if you want to do it on the side or if you want to do it full time, make sure that you do have those expenses or that amount of money set aside, that how much ever it costs to run Dominique Broadway each month or run Natalie each month, have that money set aside, so when you do start your business, that you're able to really go into it and not have to worry about money each month, because those worries is the last thing you want to think about when you're trying to start this new awesome company. And also another thing, I guess, from a financial planning perspective, make a list and sit down and think about all the things and all the expenses that are going to come from starting this company. A lot of times people don't think about that. So it's like, yay, I'm going to, start my LLC. How much is that going to cost? Are there certain insurances that you need to pay for? How much, do those cost? Your marketing plan. If no one knows you exist, who cares if you have the best product in the world? Because no one knows. So what's that marketing cost going to be? And really start listing out the things that the things and the prices that it's going to take to get this company going. And I always tell people to do conduct information meetings, or as you call them, where you actually maybe talk to someone who is doing what you want to do, and see what hurdles do they have to go through, what unexpected costs did they have, and really try to understand what it took to get their business going, so you won't have too many surprises from a financial standpoint when you're starting your business.
And, thank you so much for that, Dominique. If I could get everyone to mute their lines. The Google Hangout is very sensitive, and so if you make any noises, it actually flips the screen to you. And while we love to see your wonderful faces, I definitely want to make sure that all the attention is focused on the speaker. But thank you so much for all those who have joined us and all those who are watching us online for this particular presentation. So again, Dominique, you just talked a little bit about some of the things that we need to think about in terms of saving for our companies and
Hmm.
getting ourselves planned and prepared. What about some other important life events that people have that they need to plan around as well? Planning for a family, particularly when it comes to women.
Hmm.
Women who want to have their own companies. A lot of times, women who are also thinking of having a family feel as though they can't do it because they want to have a child as well. So, do you have any suggestions or strategies for how someone can plan for both a family and a business?
Yeah, it's that's another one I feel like that's coming up a lot too because I work with so many millennials and young professionals. I think you have to really, like I said, kind of looking at your overall picture and figuring out, knowing that number, knowing how much it's going to cost you, to start a family, and knowing how much, if you're, now you're a single woman and it only costs $2,000 a month to keep you afloat. Now maybe it's going to cost you $4,000 because childcare is so expensive, especially in the DC area. So, it's really important that you're factoring in those costs. So as long as you're factoring in those costs and preparing for these additional costs, it shouldn't be a problem. You'll be able to tackle anything. The problem is that, a lot of times people don't prepare and they don't know the cost and don't know how much this new child or this new family is going to cost them. So when the expenses start coming in, they haven't planned for it. But you can take initiatives and take steps to ensure that, your business, your new business is going to bring in enough money or additional amount of money in addition to your regular income so that you can, reach, handle all these new things that you're bringing on. Another really big thing is everyone got engaged except me over the Christmas holiday. And so everyone's like, yay, I got engaged. And now, I have this financial plan for me, but now I need to include my fiance. And, we're planning our lives together. What do we need to do? And I always tell people you need to have a money date with your significant other. Now that you guys are talking about combining your financial lives, let's talk about this. There shouldn't be any surprises once you get married. You want to know all the debt that they have. You want to know their credit score. And you're not saying that, their financial situation may make you run away. But because you love this person, you want to know what's going on with them financially. So, I tell people all the time, sit down with your husband or your wife or whoever, your fiance, and pull every single document that has your name, their name, and a money sign, and let's disclose everything that we have. Have that money conversation because we want to see what we're both getting into. And as you're starting to build your lives together, you want to know, okay, if he's making more or she's making less, maybe, you're going to contribute a little bit more to the mortgage or maybe you're going to contribute a little bit less and start having those money conversations because you can get so caught up in planning the wedding and all the fun stuff, and then once the wedding's over, it's just you and him or her and you're by yourself and it can get ugly. So have those conversations in advance when you're starting your family and when you're starting having kids or just combining your life with someone else. So having those money dates are really, really important.
I love that idea, Dominique. I
Thank you.
absolutely love it. And in fact, I'll just kind of go in a little bit more as well. You talked about planning for getting married and planning for your wedding. And the reality is that a lot of people spend a lot of money on their weddings. And so what kind of advice would you give to someone who, again, your wedding is part of your overall life. And as we've heard from you today, planning for starting a company is another life milestone. Planning for your career, your future, all of these things are intertwined. Nothing happens in its own respective silo. So what advice would you give to a woman or a man who's getting ready to get married on setting real goals for budgets around their wedding?
Yeah, that's another big question we're getting a lot. So you need to know each other's expectations of this wedding. Now, maybe it's because of what I do, I'm a very frugal person. I am not spending all my money on a party. To me, it's a party for one day, then you wake up the next day and you spent $60,000 on a wedding, which is, to me, crazy. But what are your expectations? Talk to your fiance. Do you want a large wedding? Do you want a small wedding? And figure out how much do you want to spend. So if we're saying, okay, we both have agreed, and this is something that you should talk about before you start reaching out to family members. if you both agreed that you want to spend $20,000 on this wedding, okay, great, let's stick with this number. Totally doable. I've seen people have nice, awesome weddings for $5,000, right? So if you're saying, okay, I want to spend $20,000 on this wedding or $30,000 on this wedding, then you reach out to family members. A lot of times, obviously, you know, the dads or the moms or whoever want to contribute, and then you can figure out how much they want to contribute, which may increase your budget or may lower your budget. So I feel like it comes back again. Communication is key when it comes to finances and most things in life. Have that talk with your fiance and figure out, because I've seen a lot of times where men want these big weddings, these big glamorous weddings, and women want, no, I want something small. I just want to, you know, fly away, me and like 10 of our close friends. And people, you know, sometimes it's surprising. It's like, oh, we never talked about this. So have that conversation with your mate, figure out what your ideal wedding is, and then you can figure out what the price is, and then start reaching out to family and friends and seeing if anyone already had an amount that they wanted to contribute in their mind. And then from there, you can kind of narrow down how much everyone has to spend. So like I said, it really comes back to communication and figuring out what you both want and what everyone else is able to contribute.
Perfect. So my last question, I'm going to kind of take it back to business. I know we talked a little bit about the personal side of financial planning. We talked about it from a relationship perspective. We talked about it from an individual's perspective. And we also talked about what people need to think about when they're starting their companies in terms of getting themselves financially ready. What advice would you give to someone who is seeking funding for their organization? And we all know that funding comes in many different forms. A lot of times right now people are talking about financing from the venture capital community, and because that's the sexy thing to talk about. But the majority of people who have companies actually bootstrap or self-fund their organization, and they use things like their retirement funds, they use things like a home equity line of credit, they use things like their credit cards, and they use things like their personal savings. And so as people prepare and they start to differentiate the way in which they're going to invest in their businesses, what would you give them as tools of advice, what not to touch, what they could touch more safely? Obviously, all of this is with some level of risk, more safely than others. So, you know, should someone go into their retirement account and cash that out to start their fund for their business, or would you advise them that the better thing to do would be to take out a home equity line of credit, things of that nature?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's always a very interesting topic, because it's as you said, it's risk involved with everything. If you're taking money out of your house, or if you're taking money out of your 401k or Roth IRA or whatever it may be. But, you know, like I said, when you're starting that business, figure out what those costs are and really figure out how long will it take you to start making this money back. Now, I know my business was completely self-funded from savings, so it wasn't too much risk. Obviously, my savings went down, but you know, it wasn't like I had to take heavy penalties, you know, by taking money out of my 401k or things of that nature. But definitely, when you're figuring out how you're going to fund, weigh out the cost, right? So if you're taking money out of your home equity line of credit, you're kind of, you know, obviously you're putting, you know, your house at risk essentially. You know, you're increasing your debt there. But also, you know, think about if you only need a couple $1,000s and you have a sufficient savings, maybe it's not a big deal. So I always say go to your savings first, okay? Go to your savings, your personal savings, you know, your cash reserves or whatever. Go to that section first before you start hitting your retirement accounts. Because when you start taking money out of your retirement accounts, if you're under age 59 and a half, you're going to be paying the 10% penalty plus your current tax rate. So let's say if you're in 25% tax bracket, let's just say, plus 10%, you're losing 35% off the top, right? So that's not a good time. And Roth IRAs, now that's another great place to take money from too, because essentially any money that you contribute to your Roth IRA, you can take out penalty free. You only pay penalties on the amount on the earnings, and that's only a 10% penalty. So I would say maybe cash reserves and then Roth IRA. I feel like the home equity line of credits is maybe the third option with credit cards. And then you really want to leave your retirement accounts alone as long as you can, because there's just so much to lose. I mean, losing 30%, you know, off the top of something is just like, that's just too much. And then reach out to family and friends. You know, sometimes you may have some family and friends that are interested in investing in your company, and if so, you know, that's great. But make sure that you're able to, you know, set up some sort of agreement with, get an attorney or LegalZoom or something to say, okay, if you give me $2,000 from my company, I'm going to give you back, $2,500 in 18 months, and that's legally, it's out there. So I would, honestly say just make sure you tap into your cash first before you start reaching into all those other things, because even with credit cards, there's interest rates, and God forbid, you do use your credit cards and you max them out and you miss a payment, maybe your credit card had a 5% interest rate and you miss a payment and it goes with 35%, because that's actually very possible. So use the money that has the least financial repercussions long term, as your go-to. Like I said, reach out to family and friends first, and definitely seek professional guidance, because everyone's situation is so unique and different. For some people, it may be best for them to take money out of their 401k or their Roth IRA or to use their credit card. And it also depends on what type of company you're starting. So there's a lot of different variations, but yeah, the whole I'm going to get angel investors, all these, it's not as easy as everyone says it is, just because, all these, you hear about a lot of major companies that are getting, these big investors and venture capitalists, but most companies aren't. They're bootstrapping. I'm totally a fan of bootstrapping. So, yeah.
And, most of them, even if they do get venture capital at some point, they invested some money of their own into the organization. I mean, I think when it comes to getting loans from banks, and when it comes to getting VC, people want to see some level of an equity investment from the actual entrepreneur themselves to feel that they're vested in this venture and they're not going to walk away from it. And so regardless of whether someone received $20 million or a $20,000 loan from their local bank, it's just really important to make sure that you've invested something into your company. And I think Dominique just laid out a lot of really great ways in which you can do that creatively.
And another thing too is what I've heard from people that I know who've raised millions of dollars is some of them actually say they wish they did not, because you're also losing your creative ability, and now there's a whole new pressure on you. It's like, yay, this used to be something that was fun, and now I have this guy who just gave me $2 million, or this woman hovering over me saying, when do we get this money back? When's the return? Start pushing out those profits, and sometimes it can take the fun out of the business that you were trying to start, and then it starts to feel like a job. So you try to, if you can avoid other people's money, maybe do so.
I like that too, because one of the other things that I think comes out of that, and at least the time frame in which you're trying to get funding, is learning how to run a very lean company, learning how to maximize what you have, the assets that you have right now. A lot of times it's easy to waste money on things once you get money. I mean, I see it in our personal lives. And again, having a business is just an extension of you as an individual. If you don't do a good job of managing your personal finances, you won't do a good job of managing the finances of an organization. The probability of that, at least, is very high.
Very.
Yeah, and so, I think it's important for people to learn how to operate a lean company, and to know what it means to have certain constraints in terms of the resources, so that when they actually do get resources, they can show people, hey, I'm able to do X, Y, Z with this amount, but I could do X, Y, and Z with more investment. And also, I'm very conservative about how I spend. Everybody wants to see something like that. So this is awesome. Dominique, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're so excited. We've had Dominique at our University Women program at Howard University, and now we're super excited to have her as part of our Legacy Learning Google Plus Hangout series. And I have a commitment to you that we will get you in front of an audience speaking in person at one of our upcoming events. But
I'm excited.
Obviously, for anyone who joined and those who will be watching in the future, she's amazing. Please support her organization. And Dominique, if I could have you just kind of close out our conversation by summating the things that you talked about really quickly, and also providing us with ways in which our viewers can get in contact with you.
Yeah, so just wrapping up really quickly, making sure thinking about those 5 tips, automating your savings, setting your goals, contributing to your retirement plans, protecting your loved ones, knowing your magic numbers, your income, your expenses, very, very important. Also setting those money dates with yourself to make sure that the money dates in financial check-ins, to make sure that you're, every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, and make sure you're on top of your goals. Getting an accountability partner, be it a financial coach like myself or, a friend or family member, and share with them what your goals are so they can help keep you accountable. So I think those are some of the main things we hit on. Oh, and some of the free tools: Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Mint.com, Check, Ready for Zero for paying down debt. And if you have any questions, you can always go to my website. It's DominiqueBroadway.com. On Twitter, I'm at MS Finance Coach. And those are probably the two main ways to reach me. There's Instagram and Facebook. If you Google Dominique Broadway, you'll find all that different stuff. So many different outlets I can go on for days. But yeah, and if you want to see this, copy of this presentation, I can totally email it to you so you can have, things that you can kind of work off of. And if you have, any questions for me, just reach out to me, and we'll offer, anyone that saw this presentation, 20% off of any of our financial coaching services or budgeting sessions to really help you jumpstart, so I can be your accountability partner for the new year.
Absolutely wonderful. Dominique, thank you so much.
Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. And so again, as we submit, Walker's Legacy is a women in business collective designed to help professional women walk into their passion and purpose. Our organization really strives to ensure that we're preparing women with the tools they need to be successful in career and in business. We thank you all so much for joining us for this Legacy Learning Google Plus Hangout online and in person with us right now. And you can find out more about Walker's Legacy and our network of amazing women across the country at www.walkerslegacy.com. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
And Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.